Okay, so I am going to share my screen, and I have prepared an agent that we're going to use to finally, I hope, my goal is this. We'll see if I succeed. I have high confidence that I'm going to be able to get a thumbs up from all of you by the end of this session that you're like, I got it. I got this thing. I'm iteration master. Okay, that's my goal. Can you see my screen? Awesome. I called this thing scraper. Okay. Let's make it a bit larger here. Oops, so we can see what's going on here. It's just a start block on demand. It's got one simple user input. I called it query. It basically says, what do you want to search for? Okay. And then it then goes off and it uses a Google search block. It passes in the query and it returns an output variable called sites. I then have a display content block that simply displays what's in that variable sites so we can understand what we're dealing with. And then it has a run workflow block that iterates over all of the sites, crawls them using this other flow here that simply accepts for each one of these sites one site. I could have called this one site, I guess, but I just called it site. Notice it's not plural, site. It then scrapes the site using the site URL and then gets the data back called site content and then passes that data back into the main workflow. And so we do a Google search, we get all the results, and we crawl all the results. We get back all the data, all the crawled data, and we're simply going to display this ginormous thing of all of the crawled data from any of the sites that we crawled. It's the simplest of crawlers, gets one page of links, crawls all the links, gets all the data from all the things. Okay, and that's going to be good enough here for us to do it. I also created another agent that we'll get to later, which is the same thing, but instead of using the advanced function here that we've been teaching you, it does this auto extract way of doing it. Okay. Once you know how to do this way, which is what we all use here internally, you will never use this more than likely, but I just want you to see it so you can understand what this thing does. Cool? You guys still with me? Okay. And I also created this other thing over here that lets us look at variables and talk about names of variables. I was intentional in naming them to try to explain to you like what's happening inside of all of this stuff. So we'll come back to it. So let's go to our first one here. And again, we're just going to run it. For some reason, I can't seem to clear these errors. I'll come back to it. It's irrelevant. It works. For some reason, it says that I don't have these things set, but I do. Sometimes that happens. Don't worry about it. If it runs, it's good. And what do you want to search for? Well, I always want to search for the same thing, of course. AI agents, right? Isn't that what we're all here for? What else are we searching for? We're searching for AI agents. And so now I'm going to hit next. And this thing is going to go off, remember, and it's going to go to that next block, which is, so we just did the search result, and now we've got a variable called sites, and we're simply displaying that variable sites. That's what we're looking at. Now, the display block, display to user, it's just displaying sites. When a display block displays something, it pauses. You have to click next to move on. What is this pattern known? When I stop execution and a human is looking at stuff, what do we call that?
Human intervention.
Human intervention. Human in the loop, human in the loop. That's what I'm looking for. It is a checkpoint, but checkpoint's kind of a reserved thing here because we have a block. I was looking for a human in the loop. Well done. Okay, all good answers. Toronto Maple Leafs is the best answer. I think that was before I asked the question. Okay, great. So this right here is the result of this block right here, Google search. Google search returns something that looks like this. What is this thing called? Let's do it in chat. Don't unmute. What is this whole thing called? All of this stuff. What is this called? JSON, yes. What am I looking for? That's right. It's an array. An array, because of this square bracket, it's an array of JSON objects. Each one of these things in these single curly braces, that's a JSON object, right? Remember that. And so what is in the variable sites? What is in the variable sites right now? In the variable sites is an array of JSON objects, okay? And that array has how many items in it? In chat, 28. Yay, look at you guys. It has 28 items. We know that because arrays start at 0. And it goes to 27, so that makes it 28. 28 items in the array, okay? And in fact, I'll go to my little thing here. This is what's in the sites variable, this array of items, of JavaScript objects. But I just referred to them as items. It's the same thing. Arrays are arrays of items. In this case, the items are JavaScript objects. But arrays are collection of items, comma, separated collection of items. And so if we looked at the same sites thing, we could say inside of the variable sites, there are a bunch of items. Yeah, there are a bunch of items. Okay. Now, when we hit next, we're going to go to this block over here. And the way this run workflow block works is, you remember, we choose the agent that we want to run. We can run other agents other than the one that we're running here. For now, we're just running the same agent, meaning we're running a workflow in the same agent. We can also run workflows in other agents, but that's not what we're doing. It's workflow in the same agent. We're going to run the workflow crawl. We're going to run it multiple times. Why are we going to run it multiple times? Because we're going to run it one time for each item. For each item in the array, we're going to run this one time. So we're going to run it multiple times. By default, it's set to run once, but we're going to run it multiple times. We're going to use this iterator, this advanced JSON. That's what we're going to use. That's what we all use. And then we're going to input into it the array of sites that we want to use. What's that array of sites called? What's that array of sites called? It's called sites. The array of sites is called sites, right? And so we are passing in sites. We're passing in a valid JSON array of sites. Inside of sites right now is, I already showed you, this array of items, array of JavaScript objects. We're going to call them items. Okay, so we're passing in all the sites, the entire array, into this block. And then we are saying to this iterator, I'm actually going to go down right here. For each item, that's why we refer to this as item. I intentionally use that term item. You can see it also right here. In this input sites, it says input must be a valid JSON array. Each item in the JSON array will be available as item in the workflow's launch variables, which is right here. And so for me to send one of these items, one of these things, one of these JSON objects, for me to send that into the next flow, into the next workflow, we call that item. And so I'm sending into this next workflow an item. What is an item? If these are items, what is an item? An item is one of those things. One of those things is an item. What is an item in this case? What kind of data type is an item? It's a JSON object. That's right, it's an object. It's a JSON object. Okay, and we know how to deal with JSON objects, right? Using dot notation. And so we're sending in one at a time. We're going through this giant collection of sites, and we're picking off one item, and we're taking that item and we're sending it into our crawler, which is our sub workflow. Okay? One at a time. And that's why it's called an iterator. It iterates, it loops through, it goes through each one of those things one at a time, one item at a time. In this case, the item is a JSON object that has a title, a description, and a URL. Just like a Google search result, right? If we look at search results, they've got title, description, URL. Okay, so that's what an item is. And we're sending it into this crawler, okay? So we're giving it the entire sites. And again, this run workflow block is specifically made to say, when it's given an array of things, array of items, it takes one item at a time and sends it into whatever the workflow is that we've configured to send it into. Okay. And then it also asks us, because as this workflow runs, let's take a look at what the sort workflow does. It runs, it gets in us. Here I called it site, right? Now, what is site in this case? If I did a display here and said display site, show me in chat, what is the value of the variable site inside of the sub workflow? What is it? It's the item, yes. Single item, yes. It's the JSON object, exactly. It's one of these objects. So site in the sub workflow is one of these things right here. It's a JSON object. And inside the workflow, I simply refer to it as site. I could have called it item, but I intentionally did it because because I didn't want to confuse you. What this is called inside of here and what this is called right here, is irrelevant. It shows you here the variable site is going to be the item. Perfect. So we're just passing one of these JavaScript objects into this sub workflow. Each time this thing loops through that array of sites. Okay, great. And so then what do we do here? We take this thing. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Don't look at that one. Look at this one. Same thing. Sorry, I just clicked on the wrong things. This is site. And when I'm passing this in here, look what I'm doing here. This thing expects a URL. Does everybody understand what's happening here? Site is one of these objects. Site is a JavaScript object. We know how to get access to the URL. We say dot. And so site.url is the URL inside of the object, which is what we need for this block. We passed in the entire object, but we're just getting the URL out of that object. Okay. By the way, in this other one, I actually just pass in the URL. Like like I told you, by the time you leave, if you still have questions, it's just you need to process more. But we're like going in the weeds on this stuff. We're going to handle all of it. Okay. So everybody's still with me. It's okay if you're queasy. We'll get you there. But generally, you're with me. Yes? Thumbs. I see thumbs. Okay. Let me look at the second screen here. Thumbs on the second screen for me. Keep thumbs up so I can see them. Cool. Okay. We get some thumbs. Oh, I'm making progress. So I'm going to go, I'm going to go back again just to restate everything a bunch of times. Everybody understands all through here. We got the search results. We loaded this variable called sites. It's an array of JavaScript objects. Each one of those objects in the array, we refer to it as an item. It's an item in the array. Okay. And for each one of those items, we run a run workflow block, meaning this other workflow. We say, go run this workflow, this crawl workflow. And for each time I'm going to run this crawl workflow, I'm going to pass in one of these items. And again, an item is just one of these JSON objects. And therefore, when this crawl receives that item, where here we simply rename it to site so that we can call it site inside of this. This variable is only, it's called scoped. This variable is only available in this sub workflow. This is while we're doing it in the sub workflow, I called it site. And I said, give it site URL, crawl it, and save that to a variable called site content. And this variable site content, how is it scoped? It's only scoped inside of this workflow. Okay, it's not inside of main flow. Okay, and so now we've got the site content, which just means like we loaded all the stuff. Everybody's seen the result of the scrape URL block. It's all the content on the web page, on the URL. It's just all the content. Okay, it's like page content in the browser extension. And then here at the end, we return back to the main flow something. In this case, we're returning back to the main flow this thing that we just got, the site content for this URL that we just crawled. And we're going to return that back and as this thing called site content. And we're just going to put whatever we collected here and load it into this variable over here. And that variable then gets returned into this block here, and it gets put into a variable called that you have to configure. I called it all crawled content. Okay? All crawled content. I intentionally named it like this, all crawled content. When this thing runs the first time, kind of like before it completes running, what is the value of all crawled content before the first loop completes? Does anybody know? I see goose egg, null. There you go, perfect. There's nothing in it. It's created, but there's nothing in it, right? Okay, it's null, great. Okay. Once the first run finishes, where we process the first item, meaning we crawl the first URL and we get the content and we bring it back and we store it. You see the output of each run will be accumulated, meaning added to. Yeah, if you're really like putting things on a stack or putting things in a box. Each time you run, you put the output of this thing in this box, and that box is called all crawled content. And so after the first run, what is in the variable all crawled content? The full URL scrape of the first URL that we scraped. Yep, great. What happens when it runs again? What's in the variable all crawled content? I see some people saying URLs. Remember, they're not URLs. What's inside of all crawled content is the content, not the URL. The URL is used to crawl the website, to get the site content, and that site content that gets back returned up here and gets accumulated in this variable, all crawled content. So I'm looking for inside this variable, after the second loop completes, is the crawled content, is the site content from the first page that we crawled. And below that, there's just a long list. There's like a big giant thing. Below that is all the content from the second one. And then if we crawl the third one, what's in that all content variable? It's the first, second, and third. It just gets added. It accumulates. Yeah, 3. And it does that 28 times in this case, because we got 28 results. And it just like keeps adding on and adding on. It's like if you just like pasted more stuff into a document. That's what we mean by accumulation, just like grows. Okay? And so this is the output variable that gets outputted out of the run workflow. The input into it is an array of items, of objects, and the output of it is this one variable called all crawled content. That's the output of all of the runs, all of the loops. All of their outputs get put into this thing called all crawled content. Everything else is sort of like to make it work. But the things that like you're inputting a variable, sites in this case, and out of this comes a variable called all crawled content. And by the way, we're simply going to display it just so we can see what's in all crawled content. Okay. One more thing before we run this. We get to choose the execution mode. You guys remember what the difference between serial and parallel, sequential and parallel? When would you not use parallel? In chat. When would you not use parallel? When the order matters. That's right. When you want it to be serially. Right? Okay. Because parallel, you never know what's going to finish first. Sometimes the third one might finish before the first one. And if that's a problem, don't use parallel. The rest of the time, use parallel. Okay. Here, you also get to set, by default, this thing as fail, meaning if it hits a snag inside of the scroll for whatever reason, and it throws an error. That's the term. When we talk about errors in computer science, we talk about throwing errors and catching errors. So just like to add to your vocabulary so you guys can impress mere mortals as you're talking to me. You can talk about catching and throwing errors. Okay. And so by default, if there's an error, the whole thing breaks. And for things where you can't possibly have any errors, you'd rather it break than complete, this is the right behavior. Here, we don't care. If some of these URLs can't be crawled for whatever reason they break. We just wanted to skip over that. And we get to choose how many retry attempts we give it, up to 3, just that one. Okay. And then again, we pass in, this is the way we pass in one item at a time. We just have to do this. And so this thing is always going to be, by the way, this launch variables thing, what shows up here, okay, comes from this thing right here, what we call this. That's why that says site. Because inside of this workflow, I called my launch variable, meaning the thing that accepts the thing that gets passed into it. This is the way we accept it into this new workflow. And we accept it, and we're going to call it site. Okay. And the reason, and because we called it site, over here, this thing says site. And it says, what do you want me to pass into this site thing that you created as a receiver? And we say, well, we want you to pass in an item. You guys with me?
Yeah, it's Google again. That's our.
Okay, great. And so now let's go ahead and finish running this thing. And so you remember it paused. It went and
ask
called.
one question?
Just
if the workflow has multiple inputs, like 2 different arrays or something like that, how can we distinguish? So there's 2 like there are like 2 launch variables, right? And how would it just appear inside our workflows that there are 2 variables that should be added? There would be item for both.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's right. Okay, and so this thing, behind the scenes, we can watch it do its thing, has spun up and has started crawling these things. And again, we can click into one of these crawls and we can see what happened, which is, this workflow got initialized and we passed in one of these items. The item was, IBM. And here's the link. Okay. And this thing then said, okay, just get the URL. I don't care about all this other stuff. Meaning this block, sorry, this workflow, this, what did I do here? This crawl workflow, even though it gets the entire site object that has the title of the site and the description of the site, it actually doesn't use those, right? Meaning I don't use them here. I could have, but I don't. I don't use them here, but they're here. And so all I really care about is just easier to pass in the entire object here. It was for me. I wanted to demonstrate to you that you can pass in objects. You can pass in a second, you'll see you can pass in individual items, individual, in this case, URL. But I want to show you that you can pass an entire object, and then you can just grab these 3 things. Hold on, what am I looking at here? I'm showing you the wrong thing. Let's go back to our debugger and again look at one of these flows. We're going to grab the URL. We're going to crawl the URL, scrape the URL, okay? And then we're going to get a result back. This one is 2,182 words. And that's it's all the content from that first scrape. And that content then gets passed back up to the accumulator variable. Oops. I don't know if somebody's talking, but I can't barely hear him. It gets passed into all crawled content, okay? And so now when we look at it, this is the return. Remember the last block here displays all crawled content. And we can see all crawled content is an array of just lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of data. This is all the data from all the crawled website. There's 28 pages crawled. And it's in this ginormous variable called all crawled sites. Okay? And by the way, what could we do with that? We could then send it to a model with a big context window. And we can say, analyze all of this mess. And it's as if we used our brain to go, do search Google, take 28 websites that it listed, go and read that page that it linked us to, get all that data and like analyze it. Well, in a sense, this is kind of how deep research works. You know, under the hood is these kinds of things. Okay, Alexander?
Dimitri, I have a quick question on kind of a use case for me, and that is similar to what you did with the VC kind of site or agent you had shown us. Can I then now go into LinkedIn, pick an industry, roles, certain ICPs, right? To then put that profile in and have it scrape all of those people that fit that particular profile?
We do not have a block, which is a search LinkedIn block. LinkedIn takes steps intentionally to get in the way of that.
Yeah.
But what you can do is you can be in your Chrome extension and you can be on that search results page that's got all those people, and you can push a button and you can grab, what are you grabbing? You're grabbing that array of people. And now that you know how to iterate through the array, you can absolutely make your little magic button.
Okay, so it's a workaround. You just conduct your search and your filters in LinkedIn. Once you get the results, you just scrape the results.
That's right.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but that's only possible to make once you understand iteration, right? Because before, like, you couldn't do it because like a bunch of results. But
That's
now you
right.
got to take them one at a time. Perfect. We're making progress. Well done, Alexander. Thank you. Karen.
A theoretical question, Dimitri. If there was some content that was, it's not paywalled, but it's password protected to certain users, if you use the extension, as long as you as a user on your desktop are logged into those individual sites, can you iterate your agent because it's effectively got all those sites unlocked and get the data back?
Let's get clear on our on wording here. So when I click the Chrome extension on a page, it's clicked on, let's be clear, it's not clicked on a site, it's clicked on a page in the site. It's clicked on a page. That Chrome extension has access to whatever is on that page. And for all of that, then yes, you're logged in. You can see the page. The Chrome extension can see the page. The AI agent can see the page when you click the button.
Okay.
Right. It can't see other pages on the site that you might be logged into. But if you navigate it there and push the button again, then it can see it. And then you navigate it and push a button. But to Alexander's point, in many things that you will find yourself using, whether it's Amazon or it's LinkedIn or like anything that shows you a list of things, a list of people, a list of products, search results pages, or like Google search, list of sites. Well, now you know what you can do with the list. But if you can get access to the list, well, boy, you can just iterate through the list, and for each one of those items, you can go do something. And that's superpower. See, the looping is like, again, computer science, like the most fundamental unlock, because without the ability to iterate through things, you're just like creating linear workflows. But with iteration, you create infinite. And by the way, you can iterate, and then you can iterate from inside the iterators. You know, it gets a little confusing at times, so you got to be like precise about what you're doing. But you can do nested iteration, and with that, like, the world is unlocked.
Okay.
Yeah.
All possible. Just
that's why I wanted to make sure that you guys really feel comfortable with this block, because this is, I could argue this is, it's not the most important, but certainly the top 3 block, you know. Yeah. Okay. Prasanna?
Thank you.
Really quick, Dimitri, maybe do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Sure. Oh, sorry, what's that?
No, go ahead, Prasanna.
Sorry. Dimitri, one question. When you said in your agent, the input was a text, and the text was basically, again, input to the Google site, and the Google site was doing some search. It fetched back the URL, right? I just missed that part of it. Like, where does it say, hey, here's the content from the Google, that is what I need to parse and take it to the next level?
Let's see if I can quickly,
Sorry, guys.
no worries.
So
So we start with
input,
we
Google
start with
search.
the input. The input is a query.
Yeah.
We then give that query. We query Google. So we search Google. Okay.
Gotcha.
Again, and I used to search what? I said AI agents. It's basically this. And it
Gotcha.
got these results back, you know, that the agent got the results back. And then, oops, sorry, this one. And then stored it in a variable called sites. And so sites are all these results in the form of JSON. We
Gotcha.
then sent for each one of the sites, we sent it into the second workflow, which then crawled that URL, grabbed the content from it, and brought it back and added it to this variable called all crawled content. And it did that.
It's just the Google search I missed. Okay, this was pretty straightforward.
Okay, good.
That image I missed. Thank you.
Great. Okay, no worries. Yeah. Okay, are we good here for a moment? Oh, sorry, keep going.
One question. Did you cap it at 28 sites?
No. This is what was returned by default without any advanced options here. And so I didn't change any of it. If I wanted more results,
Okay,
I could get more. Now, this said 30, I only got 28. These things are a bit imprecise, so think of this as like close to.
Got it.
Okay, you can't count on it to be exactly 5 or exactly, 30, but like close to. And then you can do other things. You can pass in other parameters in this way. You can also pass in other parameters in the query string, right? So again, let's quickly take a look at this. We're not going to spend much time at all on this, but I think this is important. One of these days, we'll do another masterclass just on this because it's, so I don't know if you can see my, if I zoom, do you see my zoom? I'm zooming? It's getting bigger? No, anybody?
No, it didn't zoom to me.
No worries. Okay. No, well, so you guys are going to have to trust me. So google.com/search. And then after this is called a path. After this path, there's a possibility to do a question mark and then have a bunch of name value pairs. Now, this isn't JSON, but everything in computer science is name value pairs. And here there's a name of Q equals AI plus agents. Oops. And this is called a query string parameter. Things that are in the URL following a question mark. This is an internet standard. All of them have this question mark something. These are called query string parameters. And if you can, understand what they generally are, you can then take that to your advantage. So I could, for example, because these query string parameters have other things here, like RLZ, by the way, they're separated by these ampersands. So not commas, but ampersands, right? And so they've got a bunch of this other sort of data in it. And these are called search operators, So if we look for Google search operators, there's a whole bunch of search operators that we can use. Like we can use things like or, and. We can use these query string parameters of like define or cache or file type or inlines. There's a lot of things that you could actually put into this URL thing here. You could add query string parameters to make this block do even more because this thing is going to get those query string parameters. Anyway, okay, so that's why I got 28 is because this thing was set to 30. Okay, you guys still with me? Cool. And you're still seeing my screen, yes? Okay, great. Now I want to show you the exact same situation that we have in this other one. This one's called Scraper Non-JSON. Terrible name. The only difference between Scraper, which is what we've been dealing with over here, and Scraper Non-JSON is that the iterator block here, the run workflow block, is here set to, instead of JSON array as its input, it's set to just as default. And one more thing is the search here in this original scraper, the format that search is bringing back is JSON. But in this other one, I chose that the result that's coming back from Google is not stored as JSON, but it's stored as plain text. And I do a display content. Again, let's run it just so we can see what's going on here. And so we're going to run it, and we're going to do our standard AI agents. Oops. AI agents. And this thing is going to come back. And look, this isn't a JSON object, right? Like a bunch of text. Like you can see what's in it. Like you can sort of see that there's still a title, but it's not rendered as a JSON object. And so this is actually a string. It's a string of text, giant string. And now you guys know what strings are from last time we talked. Yeah? And so now we have a giant string of text. And okay, but like how do you process a giant string of text? Like JSON object is easy, but giant string. So we've got this thing. And again, this is actually the default because there might be things that you are processing that didn't come back nicely as a JSON object. And you just got a bunch of text, but the text has stuff in it that is something that can be understandable as being these are items, okay? And so we have this little default helper thing here that you can give it just, data here. And again, data is, in this case, just a string, a giant string. You can give it a string. And then there's this thing here called extraction prompt. And it's like you tell, and this, by the way, this is all AI powered right here. That's why you can do this. This block behind the scenes in this mode is AI powered. It doesn't need well-structured data, JSON. It can just deal with dirty strings. And so you can give it this dirty string and a guidance on like, great, what do you want me to do with this dirty string? In this case, I just said, give me all the URLs. Give me all the URLs out of this dirty string. Extract the URLs. And when it extracts the URLs, that then becomes, this item. Now, you remember another one, the item that I chose to pass into here is each one of the items of sites, which was a well-formed JSON object that had three properties in it, okay? But here in this other one, what I'm passing in here, what is item here? Does anybody know what item is in this one? First of all, what's the data type of item in this case?
String, right?
It's a string. Anybody agree with that? Nice, okay. And what is in the string?
URL.
A URL, right? One of those URLs, a URL. That's right, you got it. And so again, this thing just went through it and got rid of all this other junk, got rid of everything in black, and it just kept everything in blue. Okay? And then now it does that, and then it says, great, I'm going to pass each one of these little things in that I now have. And so every time it runs, one of these things right here, one of these pieces of text that we now know are called strings, one of these pieces of text get passed into this crawl block, which accepts them as launch variables. And this variable is called site, just like in the other one. Now, what is the value of site the first time a loop is run? Can somebody tell me what's going to be in the variable site? Oh, I got Karen saying null. No. So the first time this thing is run, and we run the first loop, now we're in the middle of the first loop. We've just triggered it from here. We're in the middle of we're at the beginning of the loop, and this thing gets something passed into it using these launch variables. We accept it as a variable called site. And if I was to display site here, what would site say? It would be a URL. Yes, it would be that first URL. It's just a URL. And that's why you remember how over here, when I went to this crawl flow, over here I said site.url because I was passing in an object. And so I needed to extract the URL from the object. Here, because I'm actually not passing in an object, I'm passing it one string. is the form of site. I'm calling it site. So a better name in this case would be to change this to what? Instead of site. That's right, URL. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to change this to URL because that's what we're going to get in. And then we're going to get in, we just say URL here. You see, we don't have to extract out of it that thing. I'm just going to leave it at site just so I don't break it and confuse you, but you guys get it. That's what I was looking for. Launch variable site. We can then just give it site, which is a URL. And this thing is just going to scrape the URL, and the rest of it is the same. We're simply going to accumulate site content for each one of these. It gets accumulated in all crawled content. And the stuff we get back is what? Is it any different than all crawled content before? No. It's just all the crawled content. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Making sense? Feeling better? Is this helpful? Yeah. Okay. You know, this thing's going to end soon, so I'm not going to take you guys to other areas, but again, I think we're successful here. I think we've found, hopefully, all of the things that might confuse you a little bit. I showed you what this thing is. We very rarely use it, but it actually has a lot of uses. Again, let's say somewhere in before this, yeah, again, I'm building some agent and it went and it crawled a bunch of data, or like, that's an example of this, right? Actually, I know how to do it. Watch this. Well, we don't have time, but I'll tell you what I was going to do here. I was going to take this like search result, search query, right? And get back, you know, a bunch of data now that's accumulated in this variable all crawled content. And that thing has got a bunch of text, and it also has a bunch of links, right? Because crawled content is going to have text and it's going to have links. Well, now that you know what you can do, like, couldn't you just click here and do another query data source? Sorry, query data source. Another run workflow block, and then pass into it, you know, a more content, because this thing's generic. It doesn't care what it's crawling. It just wants URLs. So we could literally choose this thing again. And now we could pass into it, you know, change this to be run multiple times, use this auto extract thing, give this thing our all crawled content. Now, I don't know what model it's using behind the scenes. It might puke at it because it's too big, but we could have done it some other way, extracted it. But theoretically, you can do this, which is give it all this crawled content. Remember, all crawled content is just ginormous array of strings. And I could say to it, extract all links, and then have it go, and now crawl all those links. Are you guys following me? We did a Google search. We got a bunch of sites. We crawled the sites. We got a bunch of data. We can process the data, do whatever we want. We can also take that data we got back and extract all the links, and then go do that again. Crawl all those links, and then get all that data and extract that. And then, by the way, if we wanted to, we could go and get more data and more links, and you can create, you know, like, this isn't the right way to create those kinds of crawlers, right? But this is how you can crawl. Not just scrape. Scrape means grab. Crawl means continue down the tree, keep moving. Right, so if we did that, we should probably change this to be crawler versus scraper. Okay. This is recorded. If you guys want to watch it again, you can do it. Play around. The best way to, again, master this is come up with something you want to iterate over and try to make it work. Chances are, first time, it's going to fail on you because you forgot to do something, you know, and figure that out. And then once you figure that out, you'll be like, okay, I got this, you know, do it a few times. CPW.
Yes, so just a couple of questions. The first one is, when you did the Google search, how do you is there a way of controlling how much you get back from the Google search? I mean,
there is. That's what I was showing in those advanced configurations.
Is that the limit?
When you configure Google search, this block has these advanced options.
Limits options, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And here you can see there's results here.
Limit.
Specify number of results to return. I said this isn't precise.
Yeah.
So if you say 32, it doesn't mean you'll get 32, but you'll get something around there. You know, if you say more, you'll get more. If you say less, you'll get less. But so like this is approximate. I didn't change this on the runs I ran. And so by default, it was 30 and I got 28.
Okay. And the other question was, that's Google search, right?
Mhm.
So if you wanted to go to a site that's got many URLs on, would you use the scrape block?
Yeah, meaning if you
yeah.
wanted to, if there was a web page that had a bunch of URLs and you wanted
Yeah,
to grab
yeah.
them and iterate over them, you would. You would
Correct.
use
Correct.
the scrape URL block and just grab that one page. Mm-hmm.
And you can, okay, and then once you've got that, you'd use the same kind of
The same.
run flow block to
Totally,
be able
exactly.
to navigate whatever you want, right?
100%.
Got it. All right. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. Yeah. And again, once you start understanding iteration, you also start to understand like architecture, right? Of like, what should the sub workflow do? Meaning this sub workflow, I was able to reuse it because all it does is it takes in a URL, scrapes it, and returns back the result. And because of that, it's just a fast way for me to iterate over scraping. Then I could call that many times in my thing. If I would have done this some other way where it accepts some other things and was more reliant on this, you know, this first workflow that's going to call it, then it would be less sort of reusable. But again, nothing to get into here, but you guys are learning good design principles here of software architecture. Mm-hmm. Arif?
Yeah, Dimitri, one question is, if I want to compare two sites, then putting everything in that all output variable, is it possible like to segregate, for example, the site one content and site two, and then try to compare it?
Oh,
So-
it is in there. It's actually delineated in there. As you could see, it was an array, right? The return is an array. It's actually, even though it's a bunch of text, but that text is structured by items. And so it's an array of returns, meaning in each return is the content from the first site, or sort of from the site. And so there's the first one, there's the second one, there's the third one. See, here's the comma, end of quote, right? Because remember, this is a giant string. So here's the end of the giant string, then there's a comma, and then there's another giant string. And so this thing right here is an array of comma delimited strings. And each item is a string, a large string that has, look, you see there's like a bunch of navigation here. So it's got URLs and it's got a bunch of text. It also has a bunch of formatting. This means new line, for example, right? And so, yes, you can compare sites now. So you could say, compare the first one to the second one. And that data is all inside of our accumulator, all crawled content. So inside of all crawled content is an array of comma delimited strings. Each item in that array is a different website. Is the content from a different web page, not website, different web page. And then if we wanted to, we could continue and get AI to analyze the differences between them and do countless other things.
Okay, so if I just add a generate text block and just say, okay, compare like IBM with Google, so it will go and compare.
You
those.
could, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, thanks.
Alexander?
So another use case, Dimitri, that I want to kind of ask you about was, what if you wanted to review your own website, your B2B website, and you wanted to create a crawler that would go in and analyze all the links, the subpages, everything to the site, and let you know what's working and what's not working off of the site. How would you?
When you say what's working, the rest
Well,
of
let's say
what's working mean?
let's say like a contact us link, right? Where
it's broken. It's not. There's nothing in it. You're getting a 404, an error.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well, we may not be getting anything. It's just that
Fine.
maybe, I want to check it. I want to
I
see
got it.
what's happening with it.
Yeah, so again, you can now actually build this. This is a project that's accessible to all of you to build that. Now, what you would need is you'd need all the links to your site. And the best way to get those would be to get them like out of a sitemap. So this
Okay.
thing doesn't have to go crawl your site and do it. Give
Yeah.
it an array of links. You guys now know how to structure an array. Square bracket,
Yeah.
URL, comma, in quotes, array of string. And then you could just pass that into the same crawl sub workflow that I just showed you
Yeah.
and get all that data back. And then for each one, you could evaluate it and say, is this good stuff? And AI can say, no, this shit ain't got anything in it.
Okay.
Or it might say, no, I'm getting a 404 error. I wouldn't call that good. And so so again, it used to be like these things where like, I couldn't say to a bunch of non-technical folks, like, yeah, you can just go and build a crawler that analyzes your website. Like people sold SaaS tools. This would have been a multi-billion-dollar company that let you do that. Well, you can build in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Crazy world we live in. Prasanna?
So, Louis, if I just take a different approach, in this case, what you happened is you provided a text, it gave me a bunch of links, and then you looped through the links and did rest of the action, right? If I take a slightly different way of looking at it, now think about instead of a text, I'm looking at YouTube, and YouTube has a playlist. It has a link to the playlist URL, which has multiple association of links, like parent-child relationship. So in this case, if I want to get the content of all the children for the playlist link, do I still have to loop through all the children items link, or the playlist link is good enough for me to do what else supposed to? Because what I'm looking for is I want to get the content of all the children for the playlist URL.
Great. Everything is arrays of links in this case. If you're going to
still have to get the links. Okay.
Yeah, you have to get the links and you have to visit each link, but you can now iterate through it, So
I just want to confirm, just because I gave the playlist URL, that doesn't mean automatically it will go through
does not
all the
mean
changes.
We still have I'll give you guys 5 more minute teaser of this just to, again, so you guys can see just how quickly this stuff becomes much more useful. Like this, understanding this block unlocks many, many other blocks in the system and make them much more useful. For example, here, we could have a block, which is, these like YouTube blocks that we have. Oops, easier to search for them. Fetch YouTube channel, okay? Fetch YouTube channel. And so we got to give it a channel. And then let's, find the MindStudio channel. And so here's a channel we're going to give it. Okay. So channels are youtube.com/@. That's how they do channels. And so we're going to give it that. And then we're going to give this back, and this is going to come back. And I'm just going to call this, channel data. And I'm going to get it back in JSON. By the way, that's the only one available here. And here again, I can display the data. I'll call this damn thing channel data. Channel data. Okay, and we're just going to display it to the user, right? And if we publish this thing, come on, or we can just run it, in debugger here, open draft agent. Either one of these things. Run it in debugger. This thing is, what, did I not configure it? What's the problem? Channel URL, channel data. Run started, run completed. Where's my object? Louis, you guys still there?
Yeah.
I think this thing is not publishing. So let's see. There we go.
You try it one more time. Oh yeah. It just didn't. It didn't have the blocks in it.
Something happened here. Okay, so let's quickly do this here. YouTube. We're gonna fetch YouTube channel. We're gonna paste this in. We're gonna call this channel data, and then I'm gonna say plus again display. So it's just nice and pretty. Channel data. Okay, we're going to publish this thing. We're going to open it up, and we're going to get the channel data. Now, what is this? What are all these things here? Well, you get, again, you already know what this is. First of all, what is this? Is this an array? Anybody? I've got array, I've got object, I've got no. It's not an array. How do we know it's not an array? Because this thing ain't square. Okay? And so this is not an array. What is this? It's a JSON object, right? We already see it. It's got name value pairs separated by this. It's a JSON object. Now it's displayed in a pretty way here because this channel we know in a JSON object, this name has to be in quotes. But this is a pretty way that Chrome displays this thing just so we can read it. Okay, but it's a JSON object. And one of the items in the JSON object at the very top is an item called videos. And videos is what? Videos is an array. There's that square bracket, an array of videos. How many videos? 30 videos. Man, I'm proud of you guys. 30 videos. And each video, we can refer to it as an item, right? Each item in this array, each video has some data, including links, for example, to the video, and then some data about the thumbnail of the video, okay? And so now that we know how to iterate through arrays, we could now do all kinds of stuff with all of this videos data. Like we could grab all the links to all the videos. We could just go iterate through and just grab all these links. Could do that. We could, you know, look at watch time, or, you know, when it was published, or we could display all thumbnails, or, you know, like, this is the value of being able to iterate through things, to go through multiple items in a thing. And so play around with it. You'll come up with a bunch of ideas. Like you'll have many aha moments starting now. As you master these skills, you'll be like, oh my God, I can do that with it. Look for those, you know, ping me when you get these things. I like seeing it when you guys have these aha moments. I'm expecting a lot of aha moments. Go play with this stuff. Oh, more. Last on parting notes here. How many people have graduated, Louis?
We have 14 or 15.
Okay, we got 15.
We're at 21. 21.
Oh,
21. Very good.
21.
Okay, so
Thanks,
we're still
Chase.
processing, we're still grading, so it could be more. Okay. Everybody else is, we're going to move you through it. We're going to graduate you. Okay? So what do we need from you to graduate? We need you to complete those projects. Find the blog, go complete them. You're now iteration masters. Complete. If you get stuck, message us saying, I'm stuck, help. But complete the projects. Take that test. I've been testing you guys here with all of these questions, and man, you're qualified. So take the test. You'll pass it. If you fail it, we'll tell you to take it again, but you'll pass the test, and then go and we've got future plans for all of you. You're not graduating and leaving. It's like Hotel California. You can never leave. So let's get you to that next phase, and then let's celebrate it. Let's inspire everyone. And then let's talk about what's next. All right, guys, have a great day.
Thank you so much.
See you soon. Be well.
Thank you very much.